Hello, my stamping friends. This is Renee Novak at blessedbycards.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and I'm here today to share with you another Make It Monday tutorial. Today, I'm going to show you 4 cards that I created using the Earthen Textures bundle. This bundle is really quite fun, and I'm going to share with you some really out-of-the-box ways that you can use all of the wonderful dies that are available in this bundle. So, let me just share with you a few of the dies that you can cut out. That's the larger one. And then they have a fern one. And I cut a few different ferns out so that you could see them in different colors. So, and then they have this kind of like added thing that you can put in your pot, just a little sprig. They have a tall potted plant. They also have a short potted plant. I'm going to share with you some ways to create that today out of the box. They also have this fun accent piece that you can cut out, and I cut that out again in some different colors. And then they have this little topper that you can use to put on the top of your potted plants. Let me show you one of those. I cut the base out of Early Espresso and the little topper out of I think this is Coastal Cabana. And I recently watched a demo that Stampin' Up! Did on Creativity Now, and they actually put the handle behind the pot. So you can do that too. So here is that one that I did, and then here's what it looks like if you glue the handle behind the pot, if you just want the handle to be the accent, or you can make it with just a little bit of a topper. There's so many different ways that you can use the dies in this particular bundle, and I'm going to share with you now some of the cards and some creative ways that you can use this. So the first card that I created, I simply took some cherry cobbler cardstock and I ran the Mossy Meadow panel through the fern, the 3D fern. And for here you can see that I used that little topper on top of my smaller container. And then for my 2 taller ones, I just simply mounted this on and cut the handles off. Then I just put some accent pieces on there and one little accent piece on that top one, and created a whole new look with that kind of plain, if you will. Turned that plain one into one that just has a little accent and one that has a bunch. And then of course use the handle on the shorter one. And that was pretty straightforward. I did, however, take this tall potted plant and I turned it sideways and I used it to cut out my greeting. So I first cut the vanilla and then I stamped my greeting on it, and because it's not exactly the same on both ends, I just tucked it under there so that you couldn't tell, and you could use either side. So I tucked in the side that has kind of the end of the pot, and then that is how I created my little banner. So I just took my tall one and turned it into a greeting. So that's the first card. And all the measurements and all the supplies that I'm using for these cards will be available in a free PDF project sheet, so you don't have to write everything down. Okay, so the second card is with a Night of Navy. I layered a piece of Cajun Craze, and again used that fern embossing folder on some of the smoky slate. And for this one I decided to use those accent pieces behind the pots, and I stamped these two, but I cut off so that I could have a smaller pot. This is the same stamp, and then I made a smaller pot, and I just kind of sponged around the edges to get that darker navy look. And for my tall one, I stamped using the actual stamp from the set in Coastal Cabana on white, And then I took my Night of Navy spot and I just dabbed a line of ink to make it look like that was in the grain of the pot. I did the same thing on this one, and I'm sorry, this one I stamped Coastal Cabana on Coastal Cabana cardstock, and this one I stamped Coastal Cabana on white. But again, I used this Night of Navy spot to create those lines in the pot and added that topper, and that's my card. That's card number 2. Okay, card number 3, and again, all of this is available on a free PDF download. So card number 3, I decided to think outside of the box with that little accent piece. And so all I did was I simply took and glued it on, and then I trimmed off the excess. Turned it over and trimmed with my paper snips around here to get that look on the pot. And I put this, and if you put it on the front, those handles, you can make your container a little bit taller if you want. So this one, I put it right down so that it met pretty much the top. This one, I put it way up so that it is a lot taller. So there's a lot of options that you can do with that. This is just a plain one. Oh, it's coming off. So sorry. And then I stamped this in the lasting label, punched it out. This is Cherry Cobbler, and I added that right there to this panel of Cherry Cobbler, which I ran through with the cane weaved embossing folder. And so that is all on basically a Mossy Meadow Cherry Cobbler. This is Old Olive, so there's a variety of greens going on there. So that's my out-of-the-box thinking that you can actually use with this die. Okay, so let me share with you another out-of-the-box thinking using this very die, and where I am going to use it as a stencil. And so what I did was I put it over my pot and I sponged. This one I sponged early espresso, and this one I sponged white. So let me just show you what I mean by that. Sorry. I can bring in one of these, and then you can just pick your stencil. So you can put it as far down as you want if you want a little bit of a border, or you don't have to have a border. Now the other thing I did, if you want a really crisp border, like on this one, you'll want to put some masking at the bottom of that. But for the demo, I'm just going to show you how I did it. But if you don't want some excess on there, you'll want to mask just a very, really thin piece so that you don't have to worry about your ink going outside. So I just took my sponge dauber in white, and I just went right along on top of that. I'm kind of holding my finger there so that I don't get the ink on the bottom since I forgot my mask. But you get the idea. We're just using that paper die as a stencil, and then you take it off, and voila, you have a whole new look for your potted plant. Let me bring my card sample back in so that you see that not only did I do it on the top of the pot, I did it on the bottom of the small one. So I just used my paper snips to make this pot shorter, and I put it on the bottom instead of on the top. And so again, you can kind of use whatever colors you want, but those were the colors I used. And then I just kind of mounted it up and built with my dies that are in that bundle, and you are going to have so much fun using those dies. So let me share with you just one last tip of using this particular die right here, and I'll post a card later this week on my blog showing you a card like this. And what you do is there's these natural folds in here when you've already run that through. I don't know if you can see that, but there's some natural folds in there. And what you want to do is you just want to go along and you want to fold on those folds and that makes kind of a 3D flower or fern, whatever you want. And so that kind of gives it that whole different dimension. And it really does make your card pop. Now, I wouldn't suggest mailing this one because it probably will just get smashed down. But if you have someone that you're giving a hand-crafted card to, you could certainly, step it up by putting that on there and making it 3D. So those are my cards for today. How to think outside of the box using your Earthen Textures stamps and dies in this fun little set. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Give me a thumbs up. Be sure to share with your friends. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any future videos. And until next time, be blessed.